All right, welcome back to Hellas and Homies. I'm with 24KARATKEV, arguably one of the biggest personalities in Australian hip hop.
Stop, bro. You're making me blush. Making me blush, brother.
No, bro. It's crazy for me because, I was born in 2000. So when I was 12, 13, it was like 360 Cursor. And then we made our way through like Alex Jones and all that. And then like to the point we've arrived. And you're one of those people that's like seen the whole scene. Yep. What's it been like for you just watching Australia go from like essentially like battle rap and like a smaller scene to international attention?
It's crazy, man. Like, if you told me this stuff was going to happen 10 years ago, I probably would have laughed.
Yeah.
But with that being said, like, all the music back then, the stuff I was listening to, Curse, Horror Show, Spit Syndicate, all that stuff, like, I still love that music to this day, you know what I mean? My favorite hip-hop album from the country is still probably Lyrical Commission, The Stage Is Set, and that came out in, like, the early 2000s. So I think it's just, like, really important now as we reach a level of attention that Australian hip-hop hasn't received ever before. We really remember who laid down the foundations for that to happen, and the music coming out nowadays is it's so sonically diverse and so sonically different. I feel like maybe whereas before music was a little bit more localized, which is also a good thing in a way. I think now it's like really got that global potential, and I think there's something for everything. Like, people used to laugh at ozrap and say, oh, it's for lads, or it's for junkies, or it's for bogans, or whatever. But now I think it's, if you love hip hop, there's something for you from Australia.
110%.
You know what I mean? 110%. If you like Afro beats or Afro fusion type stuff, there's that. If you like drill, there's that. If you like grime, there's that, and there's been that for a while. If you like just straight up kind of more boom bap influenced stuff, that's having a big resurgence now in Australia. So there's something for everything, and I think anyone that says that ozrap is only for these people or that people, they just haven't looked properly into it. To be blunt.
To be very blunt. So with like the Oz scene, do you see a lot of commonalities between, let's say, like the UK from when like BBK were doing stuff in their garage to what they ended up being? Do you see like a lot of commonality from like our scene to the UK in like that sense? And also the sense that like kind of drill was what brought it to more of a forefront in a sense as well.
I guess in a sense of we're both foreign territories for hip-hop. Hip-hop is so, still to this day, is so staunchly an American thing, you know what I mean? Like, people in America might listen to Skepta, who's definitely one of the biggest grime artists in the world, and they might be like, I don't get this fucking accent, I don't understand it. Obviously, the UK, they have that grime tie-in, so 140 BPM, a lot of electronic influence. A lot of Americans still find it really hard to wrap their heads around that, and that's Skepta, who's got cosigns from Drake and A$AP Rocky and Kanye, the biggest rappers in the world. So I definitely feel that there's this kind of, I guess, underdog mentality for the UK and Australia both, as we kind of rise on that global platform.
All right, back into it. Sorry for the audio cutout. We're having a few audio issues. Hopefully it gets resolved. Now, let's backtrack a second. Kev, when you were young, I remember listening to A1, and you'd mentioned you'd done a law degree. So how did the music life come about?
Well, I've always been like a massive fan of music. The first type of music I loved was like metal and hardcore. So my brother, when he was 16, I would have been 12 or something, and that was back when nu metal was a big thing. So bands like Slipknot, Korn, Limp Bizkit, that rap rock sound, that was kind of the big sound of the late 90s, early 2000s. And my brother being 16, he was fully into that, had gel spiky hair, like chains, wallet chains, like baggy ass jeans with skate shoes. That was the aesthetic at the time. So I was borrowing CDs off him. So I was basically getting his CDs, and then that's when I first got into music. So I was really listening to metal and hardcore predominantly up until I was like 17, was. But then again, with that being said, I obviously liked, like Dr. Dre, 50, Eminem, The Game, all that kind of like typical stuff that, people in the early 2000s loved. And then, I did law in uni, and I got into like 2.5 years into like my 5-year degree, because I did a double degree. I got 2.5 years in, and I was kind of like, damn, this kind of sucks, hey. This is like not fun. And then I always had a real big talent for writing. Like I got a scholarship when I was really young to a school for my creative writing, and I had like a blog. I had like a Tumblr where I just like write down little thoughts and stupid little things. And my friends always used to read the Tumblr and be like, you should get back into this and start trying doing it for a job. And I was like, all right. So I started writing more, and then I started just like back then there were a lot of websites. You know, nowadays it's like there are a lot of podcasts and video content. Back then it was all about websites. So I was interning for like guys like In the Mix, Faster Louder, The Brag, all these kind of like big publications that were covering mainly dance music back then. If I'm going to be honest, In the Mix was kind of the big one, and that was a dance publication. So I was getting free tickets to go to festivals to review them essentially. So I was just doing it for that. Like I was just like, you know, like when you're 19, 20 years old and, you know, you get 3 free tickets to Stereosonic to review it. It's like $360 you're cheering, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I was doing. I was just reviewing stuff for gigs and slowly developing my own style. And then eventually I just somehow got a job. It was heaps random. I just applied for this job and I had like this resume which didn't have that much stuff on it. But then again, I was going hard. Like I was interning for literally anyone that would take me. I was just interning just to get my name out there, and then landed a job, and then that was it. And then not that many people were writing about hip hop back then. Like honestly, like nowadays it's like obviously it's like huge, but back then not really. Like I worked for a magazine called Primo, and that was kind of like one of the few in Sydney that was covering kind of like contemporary hip hop and stuff like that. And that's when I first started, you know, making inroads into the music industry, quote unquote. With publicists who are working with, you know, artists like Joey Badass or The Game or this and that. So that's kind of where like I kind of first came into
crazy. You mentioned him, so like your interviewing career. First of all, start with Kim K.
Yeah,
how did that come about?
So I was writing for the first magazine I actually wrote for. That was how it came about, because that was like a fashion and music magazine. So it was like 50% music, 50% fashion, and they had emailed us, like Kim's publicity team. They emailed us and said, hey, can you write about her appearing at Westfield Parramatta? And I was like, absolutely. So I wrote about this. I wrote this article, sent it back, and you know, just as an off comment, I said something like, let us know if she has any time when she's here, like as a fucking off comment. And then like I remember it was like a Saturday morning, my boss texted me and was like, check your email, and I checked it. And there's an email back from them, and they said, you've been approved for like a 5-minute interview with Kim Kardashian. I was like, you're fucking joking me. You're taking the piss right now, eh? Like me being like, how like in my early 20s, I was like, this is the funniest thing in the world. And people didn't believe it, bro. People did not believe it. I remember my mate Ash, shout out to him from Perth. I texted him when I was in the hotel lobby because it was up in the Park Hyatt underneath the Harbour Bridge. That's where she was staying. And they full took me into this room and gave me like this all this lanyard and shit. And I took a photo of it, sent it to my mate. He was like, get fucked. You're kidding. I didn't tell anyone else. And then like, we did the interview. She was super nice. Like really, really lovely woman. And then, she had a fashion line coming out at the time, but she was in Sydney with Kanye for the Yeezus tour.
Did you meet Kanye?
Nah, I wish. He wasn't. He was already way too big by then, whereas I think Kim was like getting her start in the fashion industry. Whereas, you know, by that time Kanye had released, you know, Graduation, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. He was like
some of his best work.
He was already the best rapper and producer on the planet. So met Kim, and that was cool. And she was nice. Yeah,
that's mad. So then the other 3 I wrote down, ASAP Ferg. How'd that come about?
Yeah, so Ferg's publicist at the time. He was signed to Sony Records, and she was basically the one that gave me my start in the industry. She was the one that when I first came onto the scene and I was writing, she was reaching out to me being like, do you want to interview like literally the craziest rappers like T.I., like The Game.
I've seen the photo of you and T.I.
Waka Flocka, which didn't happen, but you know, she was the one putting me forward for all these interviews because I think she just believed in me at the time, and I appreciate that forever. So she was actually Ferg's publicist because she was the head of hip hop at Sony. At that time, Ferg was not even a rapper, really. He came out as ASAP Rocky's hype man. So Rocky had a gig at Horton Pavilion, and I think that was straight after his first record. His first major label record. So she was like, do you want to interview this guy, ASAP Ferg? He's kind of coming up. And I'm like, yeah, of course, And then he was actually like a couple of hours late because he went shopping at Subi for ages. I think Subi called him up, or Culture Kings or someone, and they were like, do you want to come through? And he was like, yeah. So he was like a couple of hours late, but it was just cool to meet him at such an early stage in his career. And then I've interviewed him like 2 or 3 more times after that. And then he was just in Australia last week for the Hennessy thing. So it's been cool to see Ferg do his thing over the past couple of years.
So when you interview him, how long after was like Work Remix and the Shabba tracks? Maybe
I think it was around the same time.
Yeah, right.
I think he maybe had a couple of tracks. I don't remember. It was like so long ago. But I think he had a couple of tracks out, but he definitely wasn't like, the established. I think the tour after that, he played his own show at the Metro Theatre.
Yeah.
But at that point, he came out as kind of like the hype man for Rocky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it must have been pretty early on, I think.
Rocky's unreal. So then Kendrick is the other one I put down.
Yeah.
How was that interviewing, arguably, for some people, the best rapper in the world? But.
Yeah. That was another really crazy one because my friend Katie, she worked at Universal, and I remember she was saying, we've got 3 interview slots for Kendrick, and I'm going to give you one. I was like, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Kendrick at the time, I remember he had just dropped Good Kid, Mad City.
Yeah.
So it was like, by then he'd been put on by, The Game, Snoop Dogg, Dre, everyone had put him on, and he was kind of being primed as like the next king of the West Coast, quote unquote,
Yeah. Well, he'd be the next best thing out of Compton, essentially. At
exactly.
The time.
Yeah, he was like the big... Everyone was talking about the West Coast resurgence, the West Coast renaissance, and he was kind of the guy on the forefront of that. And then when he dropped Good Kid, I remember they moved his show from the Metro Theatre to the Enmore, and it just sold out straight away.
Yeah, nice.
And we were going to the show that night. And I turned up to his hotel, which was the Hilton on George Street, just past Town Hall.
Yeah.
And I remember I met Katie there, and she was like, hey, Kendrick's coming down. And then I remember he came down in the lift, just like kind of in his pajamas, and then I don't even know why he came down, and then he was like, we're like, oh, where are we going to do this interview? He's like, oh, do you just want to come to my room? I'm like, yeah, all right. So I'm like weirdly in like Kendrick Lamar's hotel room at the Hilton, like literally in like a bedroom type situation. We're just sitting at this like little table, and I'm interviewing him. There was no video back then, like no way, the publications did not have resources for videos.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like a written thing, and I remember I finished the interview. And then I was like, can I get a photo? And then his manager was like, yeah, of course. So he was taking a photo of me and Kendrick, but like we couldn't figure out how to get the blinds open for the natural light. He was like, no, the natural light's bad. And he was trying to figure out how to do the blinds electronically. And it was like jamming, and then we ended up just turning on the bedroom light, and he was like, no, the angle's bad. So his manager was climbing on the bed and like taking photos from the bed, and like, fuck, he was a legend. Shout out to him. I forget his name, but he was a legend. Like, and Kendrick, of course, like, looking back now, it's crazy. He just dropped a record, stopped the whole world basically with his record, and he's done such amazing things since. But that's another weird one to look back on. And I interviewed him a couple of years later, actually, over the phone when he had a deal with Reebok. The magazine I was writing for had like this little thing with Reebok. So when he had his shoes that had like, one said blue and one said red, and it was like a Reebok classic. It was before his Nike shit. So I actually interviewed him twice, but that one was like, I think, a really special one because of just where he was at the time. Like Good Kid obviously being his real big kind of breakthrough record.
One of the best albums of all time.
Yeah, crazy, because I was fucking with this section. Oh, I remember, in the interview as well, I asked him as his last question, his big, it wasn't even his song, but the song Fucking Problems with like Rocky, 2 Chainz. That was like the big song at the time, and I asked him, being like, as a question, just being so stupid. I was like, are you going to play Fucking Problems tonight? And he was like, maybe. And I went to the show and he played it, and I was like so gassed. I was like, I wonder if he actually played it because I asked him about it. That's just me like self-imposing importance on myself. I was like, I'd like to think that in my head that's what happened, Like he was like, oh fuck, that guy said I should play it. I should probably play it.
Yeah.
That's what happens in my head. Yeah.
What was the best song at that show later? What was the best song he played? Like, what got the crowd most hyped?
I think Mad City was big. Pussy and Patron, I remember, was big.
Yeah.
It was so long ago, man. I don't even remember. But he played a lot of Section 80 stuff, and
High Power is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah. I'm assuming he would have played it.
Yeah.
Because I remember that being the big single off the EP. But it was so long ago, bro. Like all these shows just like mash my brain. Like after a couple of years. Yeah.
And then after that, we got Joey Badass, who I think is one of the most underrated rappers of all time.
Yeah.
How was it interviewing him?
Yeah, so interviewed him twice actually. But the time I think you're talking about is, we actually had this like little series, the magazine I used to write for, we had this series where we'd spend like a whole day with an artist, and it'd kind of be like a photojournal interview type thing. So we did that with a couple of artists, like even Tinashe we did at one point.
I seen the photo on your gram.
Yeah, I love Tinashe. I think
was that before or after 2 On?
After. It was after Aquarius. It was straight after the album Aquarius dropped. And I think that was her first and only Australian tour.
Yeah.
Maybe. But Joey Badass, we interviewed him twice. He's the second tour, we went down to Bondi, got a feed, just hung out for ages.
You get recognised much back then?
Nah. This would have been like 2014 or something.
Yeah.
Crazy
What was the album called? All American Badass?
Yeah.
That album was...
Yeah, I think it was before that. I don't even remember. Yeah, I don't even remember. It was after 1999, definitely. But, yeah.
So, and then... Obviously, those interviews are mad, but you've also gone on to do like interviews for other shows. So, is it Filter Zone or Filter
Zine? Yeah,
Filter Zine. How was that? Like starting that and whatnot, being part of that.
Yeah, that was mad. That started in 2019, and I think that happened at a time when all the drill stuff was popping.
Yeah.
The underground was well popping by that time. You know, after the big Chillin' Wombat, 111, Nerve kind of explosion in 2018, and then drill came along. Obviously, 1-4.
Yeah.
Hefs and all those boys were going hard. So I guess we started a magazine because we were sick of radio and traditional media covering the same sort of artists.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like I sound old, but even back then, it's like obviously everyone now wants to interview 1-4.
Yeah.
But back then, no one gave a fuck.
Yeah.
Like at least on an industry media side,
110%.
Like no one knew who they were, bro. Like and. To be honest, like it was only because like Rick and Hal, like Rick who manages them, and obviously everyone knows who Hal is, but they clued me on way early because like I've been friends with Rick for years. So Rick, I remember, sent me on Facebook chat. He was like, "Check this out," and it was What You Know by 1-4.
Yeah,
and I was like, this would have been like 2018. So I was like, fuck, these guys are. It's a bit different, eh? Because back then, no one dressed like that. People dressed like that, but. No one had the Bally UK kind of influence coming into Meets, I guess, quote unquote, lad subculture. No one was really doing that. No one was rapping like they were. No one was doing those beats really. So for them to do that, I mean, Filter, it was always about championing the underground and championing shit that was kind of like forward and stuff that was getting ignored by the rest of the media. That was the three main things.
I could tell when you did the interview with Paco from G-Dup. That's a proper, like, actually interviewing the brand that is basically on the forefront of, like, underground culture in, like, Sydney especially.
Yeah.
Like, that interview was mad. And then, obviously, the 1-4 interview and the Nerve interview as well. Like, they were sick.
And Paco's someone I've known, like, literally since they fucking first started, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I was working for a magazine at the time and they were doing a shoot for G-Dup and there was like Cadillacs everywhere and like I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know who they were back then. I was just like a little intern and I was like, oh, these guys seem kind of cool. I remember they gave us a bunch of clothes, and then obviously to see him, Paco and Bo, from like where they were back then to like where they are now, it's crazy. Because G-Dup, I remember going to the Take Flight gig in Para like a couple of weeks ago, and literally I did a joke Instagram story because I was literally just like filming the whole gig, and like everyone was wearing G-Dup. Like it was crazy. So to see those boys, like, and it almost feels like we're doing it together, you know what I mean? Because I seen them from so young, and obviously the past 10 years it's just been like crazy for them. They're just killing it. And I've wanted one of those hoodies for ages, but I can't decide what. They keep on bringing out better ones, so I'm always like, I don't know which one, but I'm gonna get one, the one with the big writing on the back or some shit.
I remember being like 16, so when you're from the mountains, on a Thursday night you go to the plaza and you like just hang out, and all the other school kids are there. But then occasionally, like, we'd lie and we'd go to Parramatta and go into the flagship store back then, like the small flagship store. Some of the shit
in the Westfield,
some of the shit they had back then was just like tops, eh?
Well, speaking of the mountains, I even remember G-Dup was supporting guys like Thunders back in the day. Thunders Jess One was wearing G-Dup all the time, so it just goes to show, G-Dup been around for a while, and total respect to those guys, man. And it's just good to, like, with Filter, just to do stuff that's a bit more deep and like non-conventional artists and artists that don't necessarily get the most love from the traditional channels of media. That was the whole point. And that's why we did 1-4 as our first interview, because it was just so abrasive. And like, if you guys know Chris, who I did Filter with, you'll understand. Like, we are, both of us just love like the most fringe, like raw abrasive subcultural stuff. And it's not like we want to be fucking lads and we want to be drillers. It's not, because like, me and Chris both come from a background of hardcore punk, and that's the same thing, bro. It's like, it's not just rock music, it's hardcore fucking punk, the most abrasive raw DIY shit you can get, or black metal, like, which is again like, we're just into like the most niche and like the most like extreme subcultures. And I don't know the reason for that. I think it's just part of it's intrigue, and part of it's just, wanting to do stuff that's different.
I think like the rawness of like the environment of the subcultures within music is like what brings a lot of people to it. It's like, you don't, like, what's the next step? And then also like just people express themselves a lot more openly within those like.
Oh, of course.
Like dress how they want, and like the music they make, especially, is like what makes it so like beautiful in a sense.
Yeah, that's why I always tell artists, it's like, artists feel like when they sign to a label and stuff that they got to switch stuff up, and I'm like, you got signed for being this way.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to come in and say change stuff because like we signed you for a particular reason, you know. So I always tell artists, you know, like when you work with a label and stuff, it's definitely, you know, keeping true to who you are, and it's about kind of like enhancing what you do, not changing what you do, and I think that's like a really important differentiation. But yeah, it's just cool. It's cool to see.
Crazy you mentioned it. Something I've noticed, the reason I started this podcast is because I followed the UK for a long time. And the one thing like I noticed about the UK when they came through was you had Grime Daily, you had SBTV, and there's another one that dropped off that I can't remember off the top of my head. But like they had an infrastructure essentially. And the one thing I've always kind of thought about like our hip hop culture essentially was like our infrastructure in Australia wasn't really set well. And I thought like Filter Zine was the perfect, like the interviews you did like allowed artists to express themselves a bit more openly, whereas like radios and mainstream, they didn't want a bar of hefts, they didn't want a bar of 1/4 and stuff like that. But like personally, I think it's a bit of a downfall sometimes that we don't have enough media channels for like artists to come through. Do you think like Australia has an improvement on the music infrastructure for like hip hop, or do you reckon it's perfect as it is?
No, I think like having as many channels as possible is good, but I feel like we really need to, I guess, what's the word? I don't know how to say it, but like, I think like something like Cater, for example, is really good because like it gives like at least like a national hip hop focused kind of channel for artists to kind of like premiere songs and do this and that. Now we have like so many podcasts, you know, and like YouTube interview channels going up, which is mad. I also think not back in the day, but a couple of years ago, you even had, you know, Body Bag Media. They had a crazy run.
Yeah, I remember that.
They had a crazy run then, and even before then, Hustle Hard, you know, that laid the foundations for all of us. And One Love Creations as well, you know, you can find Chillin' It and a lot of Rops One's videos on there. So yeah, I think it's like we've had it, but I think like we need kind of like more resources. You know what I mean? I feel like on a grander scale, like hip hop's still the minority in this country. It's not like in the States. You go to the States and you turn on any radio station and they're playing hip hop fucking 24/7. You know, and I think hip hop is the biggest genre in the world, undeniably. It's the biggest genre in the world. I think in Australia we just need kind of like more just resources. Because I feel like, and resources, when I say that, like, yes, I mean money, but also putting people who are actually authentic and care about the culture into positions of influence. So, you know, I mean, obviously we have so many things now. We have radio, we have DSPs, we have like, you know, booking agents, promoters, labels. Everyone's trying to get a piece of hip hop now because people know that it's going to be, you know, it is the biggest thing internationally, but like the local scene here is doing unprecedented numbers. Unprecedented, you know. There are guys from Mount Druitt uploading videos getting the same numbers as major label pop artists. You know, that's crazy. And I think that as, you know, this progresses and, you know, the industry leans in and lends more resources, you know, to hip hop, I think it's really important to have the right people in those positions of power. Because I think hip hop, especially, authenticity is so important. And I feel like if you get the wrong people in kind of like those positions and they don't know the nuances of the scene or whatever, that's when it can kind of get a bit diluted and a bit weird. My first exposure to like people that truly care about the scene. So the first artist I ever worked with was Fez, CG Fez. And Fez, like, I haven't met him yet, but Howie, like, he just spoke at length about like Howie and his care for like the whole music scene. And like how he's like, they call him the Godfather, like some of them, because he's just like that overseeing figure of like, bro, like Howie is the fucking man. Honestly, like he's helped me so much throughout the past years too. You know, obviously not just his stuff with Triple J, but you know, just mentoring so many artists in the scene, and you know, it's so important to have figures like that who actually give so much of their time and their energy to the scene. I think he's on holidays right now because he definitely he deserves it, bro. He did go on a holiday, but Howie, man, like honestly, I literally hit him up maybe like a couple of months back, and I was like, man, like, you know, you have a beautiful wife, you have 2 kids, like, how are you in the studio so often? And I'm just like, he's just like, I love it, bro. Like, you know, like he works like, you know, a full-time job. And then, you know, on the weekend, he goes and, you know, goes to the studio and helps out artists, and not even the artists that he necessarily like signed to his label because he's got a label, but just artists generally, bro. And just like giving advice. He's always got so much time for me whenever I hit him up to ask about anything. And, you know, I think that's so important to have guys like How around, and, you know, Ricky too, like I mentioned Ricky before, same sort of thing. And, you know, hopefully as I get older, because I'm not young, bro, I'm like 32. Hopefully when I get older, I, you know, devote more time to that as well. But like, you know, right now being 32, I'm just like trying to figure out that work-life balance. I think Howie's figured it out. He's got it. He's got something working for him. But for me, I'm still finding my feet in that instance. And, you know, I wish sometimes, like, I was talking to Hayden from Take Flight about this as well. I was like, fuck, I wish sometimes we could just, you know, help every single person that hits us up. But for me, realistically, it's like, it's just not possible, bro. Like, and, you know, like, I don't mean to sound rude or anything, but sometimes I just don't answer a lot of DMs because I just don't. Because it's like, if you look at all my anyone who knows me, you look at all my best mates, they're all like, they like going to gigs and they love rap music and stuff, but they're not music industry people. Because when I hang out with my mates, I just want to zone out, and I just want to go eat some good food, vibe, have a couple of drinks, and that's it. Like, I don't want to sit here talking about someone's fucking rollout when I'm with my friends, you know? Like
110%.
So I just want to hang out with like regular ass people. And, you know, I think you need those people when you get deeper into the music industry as well, because like, I remember like I said, all my friends, they're like, they're invested in hip hop and they love hip hop and stuff. And then one of my best mates from high school, he lives in LA. He's actually moving back here soon. And I remember he came to visit, him and his wife. And he has no connection to the hip hop scene. He's literally like he's an engineer for like a solar power plant or some shit, like an actual proper fucking job, like you know. And then he came back, and I remember having lunch with him down in Barangaroo, and I was like, I left the lunch, and I was like, I actually forgot how that felt. To sit down and not talk about music with someone and just talk about regular life shit.
Just life.
Just life, bro. It was crazy because like I have the best friends in the world, but like, you know, one way or another, we always talk about hip hop and this and that. I was just like, whoa, that was wild. We're just talking about footy and like how the Sharks were doing in the comp that season.
Are you a Sharkies fan?
No, I'm not, but he is.
We're
just talking about how the Sharks were going that season, and, you know, what was happening in LA and what was going on at the fucking solar power plant or whatever it was. And I was like, damn, this is kind of fresh. So I really think I'm trying to like work that out.
Find that work-life balance.
But I think that, you know, when I do work that out, it's probably gonna take me a couple of years. You know, I'd love to have a situation like Howie where, you know, he has that freedom to, you know, he's earned his stripes, he's done his thing, and now he just does it for the love, like you said. It's just wild. Shout out to Howie, man. Like, I can't thank him enough for all the stuff he's done for me over the years.
He's the best, man. He's the best. Like, who knows where Oz hip hop would be without people like him.
100, bro. From Coolism to Triple J, and like I said, bro, the BTS stuff. People didn't know how much BTS stuff he does. You know, even on a personal level, I can say like how much he's helped me throughout the years, and that's like, kind of like what I was saying before, even about when I think it's really important as hip hop in Australia gets so big that we pay our dues to who laid the foundations. And that's why I'll always go out here and say, you know, Howie, Katrina, Rick, you know, even like Hustle Hard, all those sort of channels, like they laid the foundation. Cursor, you know, like they all laid the foundation for what's happening now. And no one can deny that. Like,
Funny thing about Curse, you know, Morrison in the UK. They're like friends. I never picked that up. I saw it the other day. They like comment on each other's photos and stuff. It was the weirdest friendship. But I was like, it's mad how Cursor gets recognition overseas for being the Don.
Cursor's another one, bro, where it's like, he's the blueprint, you know what I mean? When we see everything happening now from the underground, it's like, he's the blueprint, you know? Everyone who's coming up is like, you know, he was the first, you know, real abrasive underground rapper to reach those heights. And no, I'm not saying that he was the first guy from the underground to get big. Like, people are going to misinterpret what I'm saying, but like that particular, you know, Southwest Sydney,
unapologetically himself.
Like whatever you want to call it. I think gutter rap was the term people were using back then. I don't know if people, you know, like, people know what I mean when I say that. So he was the first, you know, and I think like I only met him for the first time about probably like a year ago. I met him for the first time, and bro, he was so lovely, like the nicest guy, bro. Like, and every single time we message, he's always like, yeah, man, hope you're doing well, hope your family's well, like what's going on, like always down to chop it up. So shout out to Curse, man. And I went to his show in December last year at the Enmore. Was it in December? His last show at the Enmore, whenever it was, and you know, that was crazy. someone doing it that hard, 10 years deep, like, massive respect.
Yeah, respect. I'm just going to change this out quickly.
Yeah.
Another one I was going to mention, Eski. I spent a lot of time with him.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was listening to an interview with Ricky, like the manager of 1-4, and he was saying like Eski was the person who sent him the boys. Like, yeah. It's just, and I spent a lot of time at Open Studio, the place where I normally do the pod.
Open source, yeah.
Yeah, and just crazy. Like Eski just loves to be there. Like he does his social work and stuff of a day, and then he comes through and like.
Yeah, is that the street uni thing at Livo?
Yeah. So there's street uni here, and then there's one in Penrith, one in Mountie as well, maybe. And there's another one elsewhere. But yeah, he adores it. It's his favourite thing to do. Yeah,
I know him and Randy. I think Randy had a lot to do with that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm not too like familiar with Eski myself. Like I know him like and stuff like that, but yeah, I've noticed that people shout him out for being one of the guys to first put 1-4 and stuff on, and it's really important to have that stuff happening on like even the stuff Spanian's doing. When you think about that, it's like. He even said himself, the social workers and stuff say that no one can reach these kids unless people look like them and sound like them, and that's why I got massive respect for the stuff Spanian's doing now. Like, it's just hectic. I think he's really realized like how much influence and power his voice has, and he's gone out there and doing his thing. And even Kobe D, bro, like Kobe D's we grew up like 30 seconds away from each other.
You grew up out there, did you?
Yeah. Me and Kobe D grew up 30 seconds away from each other. Like, obviously he's like a very proud Southeast Southeast Sydney guy,
Southeast demon.
Yeah. He's and all the stuff he's doing lately, his last tour, all the gigs were free. Free food, alcohol and drug free, like just whole like community events. I went down to the one just down near Maroubra Beach, and fucking to see that, bro, like Like, I've known Kobe for a couple of years now, One of the first interviews he did was the one with Filter.
Yeah.
And to see him since 2019 when we first met, like to now, it's like his vision's so clear.
Crazy.
And he's so community driven, bro. And it's like, I think he's one of the best artists in the country. I think anyone will say that, know. He's definitely one of the most important storytellers we have right now. And Kobe, Spanian, just doing their thing, bro.
Kobe's been unreal to watch because I was listening to Triple J one night, used to deliver pizzas, and Jody Freestyle came on. I used to listen to it on SoundCloud for months. Then it got to Spotify. And I sent him some gear at the time. But watching him grow to what he does now is just remarkable. Like, he's such a role model for the youth. It's crazy. Like you said, like Spanian said, the youth won't respond unless they see and hear someone that is them.
Yeah, that they can relate to, man. I think Kobe does that really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's like a fucking state champion boxer or some shit as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he can throw a good punch. Yeah, I've seen him sparring with the boys in the studio.
Yeah. It's like Bugsy Malone. He was a champion boxer. And then it went to shit, then took up rapping.
Oh, good on him.
Yeah. Kobe D and Bugsy Malone should get into a charity fight.
Yeah. Well, Yellow Boy Tommy as well.
Yeah.
Up from...
I've heard you mention him a few times.
Yeah, I think he's from around Pennant Hills.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, Tommy, but he was like a just like champion level boxer as well. Then he got injured and he started doing music. So
crazy.
Yeah.
So we mentioned him before, Spanian. Like, congratulations first of all.
Yeah, thank you
on that. Yeah. How was that writing his book?
Yeah, it was mad, bro. Like, honestly, like, I've never, even though I've done journalism for so long, I've never considered myself like a quote-unquote journalist. I don't get invited to the journalism awards. I don't get named in these like best of fucking bullshit lists that they do about it because those dudes don't know what's up. But I've written for a long time, and I think when that happened, it was just like not expected at all because obviously I think books have this mystique about them being like, oh, you have to be like a proper author, and it's just like me who just writes like dumbass reviews on rap music just comes along. And shout out to my mate Adit. He's actually the one that hooked it all up because he started managing Span, and me and him have worked on stuff together for years and years and years. So he hooked it up, and then from there it was just go, and it's just funny that it happened. Still to this day, I'm like, I cannot believe that actually happened. But I think that just goes to show, hip hop, Australian street culture and stuff. It's just becoming such a massive, undeniable thing that everyone kind of wants a piece of it, I guess.
How long did it actually take you to write the book? Like, when I'd seen you'd published it, because I followed you on Instagram for a while, I was like, looking at it, I was like, fuck, that would have taken a minute.
Bro, you know what the funny thing was? So, we wrote like one chapter as like kind of like a pitch to publishers.
Yeah.
So that's what you send around to people and see who's keen. And then it got picked up by the publisher in May.
Yeah.
So May 2021. And we had to have it done by September, fully done by September.
Yeah.
So that's like nothing.
Yeah. It's
like months, it's the it must be like the fastest book turnaround of the, like it was just, it was ridiculous. But like the best thing was that was when lockdown was happening.
Yeah.
So literally I was just doing like 10, 12-hour days of just writing. Like just went super hard. And then me and Spanian would meet up like once or twice a week and then just do like 4 or 5 hour sessions.
Yeah.
Him just going through his life in
So would he give you information and then you'd go from there? Like, would he just give you a bulk of information as to like how his life's occurred?
So basically, when we first met up, we divided his whole life into 15 chapters, and I just divided it based on what I thought makes sense. He literally told me his whole life in 2 hours. Like the first time we ever met, he sat down like as close as we are now, and I was like, "Can you tell me about your life?" And he goes, "Yeah, sweet," and just relayed his whole life. And I was like, "That was fucking crazy." Like I don't even remember what I ate for breakfast last week. You know what I mean? So for him to do that, it was just wild. And then. Yeah, we split it into 15 chapters, and then every time we do one chapter. Every time we met up, we'd do one chapter.
Yeah.
So, and then, like, by the time I got that chapter, I'd kind of, like, work out where I needed to get more information, and then the next time we met up, before we did the next chapter, I just relay everything that I needed from the last chapter. Yeah, it was really confusing, but you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, so, like, it's just mad. Like, and that's how we did it. He just like went into like excruciating detail about like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I've seen him do like interviews, but also like on his podcast, just talk about like his life, and he's just like crazy to fathom, like the life he's lived. Yeah,
he's had a wild ride, and I think crazily for him, it's just starting.
Yeah,
you know, he's like 35 or 36 years old, I think. So, and for him to get out of prison and just have this huge like monumental like. I didn't even. It's hard, bro. Like literally, like 5 years ago, he was sitting in jail.
Yeah,
and now he's just like arguably one of the biggest, personalities that we have in the country. He's probably the best. He's definitely the best.
Yeah.
He's definitely the best spoken and the most interesting personality we have coming out of Australia right now. And I think when he like whatever his management has in store, I don't know, but I think whatever they do next, it's going to reach that level of just like full on fucking proper like stardom. Like.
110%. Like he's because of the pig Latin he uses, I think people mistake him for actually like how well spoken he is. Like because he says like ilche and all that, like a lot of people just like discount it. And then like when he actually speaks, like I've tuned into his streams every once in a while, he's very like well spoken. The craziest thing was the publisher messaged me back when we were going back and forth about the edits, because the editing process for the book was that took almost as long as writing the book. But I remember they messaged me back and they're like, Chris, do you reckon you could like just like calm down on the C bombs every? And I'm I already took half of them out. What do you mean? But it's like you can do word. You know how you can do word search on Microsoft Word or whatever, and it'll tell you how many matches that word is.
And it was like I remember being like a third of the way through the book, and I typed in cunt, and it had like 89 matches or something ridiculous. So I was like, I already took half of them out. But I get what you mean. Like he does have that distinctly Sydney slang to him, but 100%, you can see when he talks about something serious or a topic. He's very, very articulate and very persuasive too. Like he's definitely able to get his point across very well. So I think in an alternate universe, like Spanian could have been like, like I don't even know, like just with the way he talks and the way he's able to get people on board, it's crazy.
So let's switch it up a bit now. So music management, how did that come about?
Music management came about when basically.
Well, why did you want to do music management?
So basically, I was doing writing for a while back then. This was probably when I was like 26 or 20. I would have been 26, I think. So I'd been doing writing for like 6 years by then, and I guess like everyone on like a local level kind of knew who I was, and I was feeling a bit like I've kind of done everything. And then
in a writing sense.
In a writing sense, because remember this was also before like a lot of people had video and stuff. Like this was just like words on a page type stuff. Like I think video was just starting to pick up then, and we'd done a bit of video stuff, but not that much. And so I remember I applied for 2 jobs, and one was in Melbourne and one was in Berlin for 2 really prolific kind of publications. And me being like in the mindset that I had at the time, I was like, this is it, you know, this is my big break. I'm going to move to Berlin. This is going to be what's going to set me up for the rest of my life. Yada. Or I'm going to move to Melbourne and do this and do this and do this. And then I did interviews and then actually didn't get either of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, so cut.
Yeah.
I was like, so cut. Like, didn't show it to anyone, but I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because especially like if you have Asian parents at that age, when you're
26,
when you're getting into your late 20s, it's kind of like, my parents are like, so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know, and my older brother, I'm like, so what are you going to do? And I'm like, fuck off. Like, just let me figure it out, man. Like, but you know, I had that kind of angle of it, and also just this like huge sense of like disappointment. And I was like, fuck, you know? So I was like, you know what? Get back on it. So it was really good timing because, you know, just kept on doing the writing thing. 2017, 2018, started doing my writing thing again. And that was when, you know, that whole body bag, One Love, underground, ozrap type thing was popping.
Yeah.
So I started focusing all my attention to Australian artists.
Yeah.
Like I had supported them in the past, like, you know, Manu and Fundamentals, One Day, all those boys.
Yeah.
But with this kind of new underground kind of like really taking prominence, I started honing more my attention to that instead of doing all this shit like Joey Badass and T.I., which is cool, but it's like, doesn't, like, they're not going to remember it. It's just more like funny for me. Yeah, so I started focusing all my attention to the local scene and just started doing all these really early interviews with like Chillin' at Husky. All
Shout
those
out
boys.
Chill, man. He popped off.
Yeah, and this was when because he took a really long hiatus and he just came back and he did those 3 big grime tracks with Talakai. And
Get Bodied.
Yeah,
if you know.
That's what we interviewed him for, bro. Yeah. And I remember they were playing a show at like. They played a show in front of like 100 or 150 people. And, you know, Chillin' Talakai joint set. Like, to think back on it now is wild. Like, but I remember like Chill was like really excited to do the interview and all this stuff. And that's how I started meeting those boys. Yeah. But still in the back of my head, I was kind of like, you know, this writing thing is just a bit like, you know? So, I'd known the Triple One boys for ages. Like, I'd met them at a couple of parties, and then being Inner West boys, I used to see them around, and we'd say hello and this and that. And then I remember, like, one of the first times I met Triple One, like, one of their friends was like, oh, you need to check out these boys. They're, like, big into Inner West, and they're, like, crazy. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, fuck off. Like, I was at a party. I was trying to get lit. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. That's what I mean about that last thing, man. Like, when I'm out, I don't want people to pitch me music and shit. I'm just like, I want to have fun. Yeah. And this person was like, no, check out Triple One. And I was like, oh, whatever. Coincidentally, like a couple weeks later, like, I remember on my side, YouTube recommended, this video popped up, and I looked at the thumbnail, and I was like, fuck, it's that guy from Triple One. I was like, check it out. Because I had a lot of views back then. It was on this big channel, and it had, like, a couple of 100,000 views, which...
Was it Butter?
No. Way before that. It was Doozy. This was Doozy. Yeah. This was like 2 years before that. So I remember, like, you know, having a couple of 100 views back then in ozrap was crazy. Like, like pretty much almost unheard of. Yeah. So then basically, like, I clicked it, and, you know, me coming from a background of hardcore and punk and shit, I was like, I just got it. Yeah. Like, no one was doing that style back then. Like, that was internationally, you had like Suicide Boys and yada yada doing that kind of hybrid. Yeah. You know, like alternative rap style, but no one in Australia was really doing it like that much. So yeah, I hit up Marty from Triple One, and we just used to talk about music because he just like really basic stuff, kind of like that artists don't really know when they're that young. It's just like, how do I write this email? How do I pitch my music to Spotify? How do I do this? I just help him out just for the fuck of it. Yeah, thought they were cool guys, and then like. Yeah, I was like, one day someone was just like, why don't you just manage him? And I was like, I've never done it before. They're like, so? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, good point. So I just did it. Yeah, we all met up for milkshakes randomly in Paddington. We met up for, I was working at an office in Paddington that time, and I was like, yeah, just come through on my lunch break. So all 4 of them came. Yeah. You know, all 4 of them rocked up. We went to this milkshake shop called Mickey's, and then we just got milkshakes and talked about it. And I said to him straight out from the start, I was like, you know, I'm not going to sit here and promise that I'm going to make you cunt superstars. Yeah. But I can add value where you guys need it. Yeah. And they were like, cool. And then the rest is history, bro. Yeah. Like, I remember, like, after that, you know, that's when all the booking agents and all the labels came calling. And they were the first one from that scene to get a deal. Like, yeah. I think people forget that. Like, that was, I think, what kickstarted a lot of, on the industry side, the label's interest in, like, the underground. Yeah. When Triple One just started really fucking doing numbers, bro. Like, yeah. We were selling out the lands down in like a day. I remember we bought 20 of our own tickets. We bought $400 worth of tickets just so we could invite every label and every booking agent in the fucking state. And I remember they all turned up. Yeah. So you had like Sony, Warner, Universal, you had every booking agency, and we were like, we're just gonna make everyone so fucking horny for this band. Yeah. Like it's just like we paid $400, but it's gonna fucking back then, which was like a lot for the band. We were like, this is gonna pay off so well, and it did. Yeah. So it worked. It worked.
So Nerve, how'd that come about?
Yeah, same kind of thing, man. I guess that scene was still small back then. So once you meet one person, it's really easy to meet them all.
Domino effect type of thing.
Yeah, I met Nerve at a 50-50 or a fully gassed grime event in Melbourne.
Yeah.
He was big into the grime back then. He was doing, the joint project with Wombat. He was getting up with Alex Jones and Fracture and all those boys.
Shout out Alex Jones.
Yeah, bro.
I still think bar for bar, one of the best in the country.
100% one of the best in the country. He could drop an album tomorrow and it'd be the hottest thing in the country.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So shout out to him, man. I actually saw him a couple of weeks back at the Posse Shot show, and he seemed to be in good spirits and stuff. So
it's mad.
Yeah, shout out to A-Dot. But yeah, Nerve was, being a young guy, he was stepping into that realm, which is, a very abrasive kind of scene. And he was like standing on his own 2 feet and really fucking, swimming with the big guys back then, Frax and Dime and Scotty. He was having no problem getting up there on cyphers and just bodying it. Same sort of thing. I just met him, and then eventually, we just had a chat. I remember in Melbourne over New Year's, 2 or 3 years ago, and then we just did it.
Yeah. So with general questions, so different, Nerve's latest song.
Yeah.
I saw the music video for that. Are you part of the organization for that?
I mean, I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be, but Nerve's also a guy who's very self-sufficient.
Yeah.
He obviously has Noah Network and that video team up in Brizzy.
Yeah.
So with video stuff, he basically has he's also got his head screwed on, so he has a very clear vision of what he wants.
Yeah.
It's not I have I give him ideas, sure, and I tell him, this shot sucks, use this shot and stuff like that. Yeah. But general concept wise, he has a very strong vision of what he wants.
Yeah.
Same with Triple One, Marty directs all the videos.
Yeah. So
I've never had to step in and on that level and give people
too much direction.
Too much direction, because sometimes I do, but at the same time, I would say 80% of the stuff is just they're this is what I want to do, this is how I want it to look. I know who's gonna shoot it, and we just do it, which is lucky for me because I do less. But it's just good to have artists that have a really clear idea of how they want things to sound and look.
Yeah.
And that different thing, half of it was filmed in Dubai. I didn't even know that was happening. He was just I'm just gonna get a Dune buggy in and we're just gonna film some shit today. I was like, all right.
Yeah. I seen it and I was like, there's no way he's fucking filmed this in this country.
I have no idea. Bro, you know the funniest thing? He came down here for a video shoot, and that's when the COVID border restrictions were crazy.
Yeah.
So he came from Brisbane to Sydney for a video shoot, but he couldn't go back to Brisbane. The Queensland border was shut.
Yeah, right.
So he just came here, and I was like, what are you going to do? Because you're not sleeping on my couch for And he was like, oh, I'll just go to Dubai then. And I was like, all right. And he ended up going for 6 weeks. It was so wild. And I was like, when are you coming home?
Do you link up with Bam Bam over there?
Nah. I think they were DMing. They were DMing, actually. I think someone... Archie from the Batuta Advocate actually linked them together, but I don't think they met up or anything. But yeah, that would have been crazy if they did.
Yeah. I remember seeing Bam Bam's videos over there with Nelk and stuff like that. It was just crazy.
Bam Bam, he loves it.
He fucking loves it. We see him around because we see him out when he's not got a fight coming up. We see him around and he's most down to earth bloke.
Yeah, we had him on the pod a couple of times, and he's a super down to earth and funny guy. And again, we're talking about music, reaching that global level. You can't forget that, also him.
Yeah,
he's literally smashing people's heads in the UFC and screaming Eshe all the time. That's just culture, bro. That's just culture. That's how. That's how stuff gets, internationally recognized, these little nuances that we have. It's almost like when grime popped off here and then everyone started saying ting and peng and shit. And it's but that's where we need to be when people start catching on to our slang and appreciating Australian music for being Australian. You know, that's distinctly Australian. So it's mad. Yeah.
It'll be beautiful when Americans and Englishmen start saying Eshe out loud.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's the die-hard drill heads in some small town in fuck off London, outside of London are probably have you heard about this? No, maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know. That's just that's what I like to think in my head is happening.
So last question. So Australia-wise, where do you see the where do you see the scene heading? Say 2027, 5 years from now.
5 years from now, I think we'll be globally recognized by then.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do.
What's your definition of that?
I just mean like having a community here that, well, first of all, we have to have a community here where we have people from the hip hop scene in positions of influence and power. Yeah. So whether that be on a label side, radio side, DSP side, media side, promotional side, booking agent side, festival side.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be more heavily dominated by local and international hip hop. Well, even international hip hop now, it's happening. Like, we're just talking about like the Listen Out lineup. It's like that started as a dance festival.
Yeah.
And now it's almost like a
hip-hop.
full-on fucking hip-hop festival.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's already happening, but I think locally, like, we're going to see more of these like prominent Australian artists on these mainstay festivals, or the hip hop scene is going to create their own festivals, which is again already happening. You see like Lunar Electric and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
like half dance, but whatever. It's like Curses playing stuff like that.
Yeah, and
then I also think there's going to be the opportunities for Australian artists to tour internationally.
Yeah.
And be recognized by like kind of like the media and the industry on that side, and also there's a big difference between being recognized by the industry and actually having fans.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about both.
Yeah.
Because a lot of artists are recognized by the industry, but they have no fans.
Yeah.
They get pushed by like a certain brand, or they get pushed by a certain radio station, but do they actually have organic fans? Not really.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, industry support's great, but only when you have that organic fan base. So I think we're going to reach a stage where there's organic demand and fan base for hip hop internationally.
Yeah.
Australian artists are going to be able to tour there quite healthily and be on festivals and stuff like that. And I'd love to get to the point where, we have like Complex US reporting on Australian stuff.
Yeah.
Complex UK and Complex throughout Asia and all the flagship media outlets in Africa, reporting on what happens in Australia, just like what's happening to Kid Laroi.
Yeah.
He's like the biggest pop star in the world. So, but I think that before that happens, I do think that there's going to have to be a couple more melodic artists.
Yeah.
To kind of break through that way.
Yeah.
Only because the accent thing is just still it's such like a big debate. I can't believe we've been having this debate for so long. But yeah, I understand from an American point of view, if they've never heard this accent, it can be a bit jarring. Yeah. Especially if you talk like me. Like, it's just fucked. Yeah. But yeah, so that's why I think, when people sing, the accent doesn't come through as strong enough. Yeah. So I do think that, there's going to be a couple more kind of like melodic artists to kind of break over there. And then I think once that happens, we slowly introduce them to, the more rap heavy stuff, which I think is already happening. Yeah. I know that Younger Lips had, some good traction. Yeah. Some good traction overseas with his record, and I think he's a superstar. Yeah. So yeah, I think there's going to be a couple more kind of like melodic artists, and then the hip hop scene eventually is going to and the melodic kind of like the melodic stuff and the hip hop stuff is so mixed nowadays. You know what I mean? If you think about someone like Polo G,
it literally came to the top of my head right.
Polo G, exactly. So. And he's done shit with Laroi too, so that's all those worlds are mixed nowadays. So I really think it's all going to come up,
as like
together.
Saying,
And I think it's going to take a couple of years. It's not an overnight thing. But if we look at where we are now compared to 2017, and that was 5 years ago, huge difference. Yeah. So give it another 5 years, and hopefully everyone's going to be eating good, and we're going to have our music recognized, and really put Australia on the map because we're so isolated. So. It'd be good for us to, really have that global imprint next couple of years.
Speaking of eating good, bring back Golden Century.
Bro, I walked past it the other day. I don't know what's going on, to be honest. I heard it was coming back, but I don't know. It looks kind of empty to me. But there's a couple of good Chinese restaurants still. Yeah. If you go to the 8 in Market City or, East Ocean around the corner. Yeah. Yeah, and the Golden Century still got their other joint in Darling Square as well. So, there's a couple around.
I walked past it like last week. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, it's not the same, bro. It's just that certain energy in there that can't be replicated. Yeah, because I fucking. We took Rich Brian there for his 21st birthday. You know what I mean?
That's
like
mad.
Just crazy memories in there, and obviously like my family goes there all the time and stuff. Yeah. So special little spot, but bring it back. Yeah. Anyone out there? I don't know who's Doing what?
Yeah, who can do it?
Yeah, who can
just
do
get
it?
doing it.
But bring it back. Yeah.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for hopping on. It is a pleasure from like a 22-year-old that's watched the scene and knows exactly who you are, like to talk to someone, and the knowledge you have on like the Oz scene is just something you can't buy. So thanks for hopping on. We'll get you back on for sure later a date. And 24KARATKEV on Instagram.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, thanks for having me on. You know, I love doing this shit anyways. So it's good to see people actually doing like in-depth conversations and not just like random shit all the time. So it's I think we need more of it. You know, we need more support on a grassroots level. You know, for our artists. You know, and not just the big ones. You know, the guys that are coming up, they're going to be the next superstars. So we always got to keep level-headed about the scene and the artists that are just starting out. You know, because stuff moves so quick nowadays. So
110%. Well, 24KARATKEV on Instagram. If you haven't already, make sure you're following him for the keep the badging content. It's unreal.
I don't have any, no Sony on today. But
and as always, hellasandco.com, hellasandco on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Thank you for watching. See you next week.